Hi, my name is Mark, and today I am recording my first public YouTube video. And I am recording this video because I have a new Excel add-in that I've developed, and I am going to release it in the next 30 days. The add-in is substantially complete, and I've been thinking a lot about how I can market it and how I can train, like provide training so you know how to use it. It's intended for basically analysts and really any business domain expert that spends a lot of time in Excel. Is specifically intended for non-technical people. So if you're someone that wants to learn how to code, this would be, I think, a great way to learn. I am a business graduate myself, and I do not have a computer science degree. So I think that I can explain things in a way that will make sense to you. So I'm thinking about, like, how do I market this software? And I look at car commercials, and you see car commercials, and the car is always doing really cool things, is going in the jungles or climbing up mountains. And so to sort of take from that school of thought, my thinking is I'm just gonna make some really cool projects. I'll build them right here. I have two screens. I'm looking at my other screen now, and I'll show you step by step how I do it, and you'll learn by osmosis. I think that one of the things I want to say is that when I was learning, this is this Kit Kat bar thing. So Kit Kat bar education. Halloween was a little while ago, and I took my kids out on Halloween, and afterwards we're eating a candy, and like this is a Kit Kat bar. I like Kit Kat bars, and they're so small, and I spent so much time. Like, I had to open up, like, 10 Kit Kat bars, little baby ones, and then you eat them. And it's just a very inconvenient format to eat a Kit Kat bar. And I think that education with software and coding online is sort of similar. It's like you go like really deep into one subject. You can learn all about a list view or learn all about objects, whatever it is. And I don't think that's a very good way to learn. I don't think it's pragmatic. So I am going to embrace like a needs-based thing where we basically are going to we're going to develop the things that are proximal needs, the things that we need immediately, we'll build. So the add-in itself is like sort of like it's a framework. So it's similar to Django is a framework for Python for building websites, and I took a lot of inspiration from that. You don't need to know anything about programming at all. If you happen to be someone that, if you're pretty good in Excel, if you're like crafty with Excel formulas, you know what a VLOOKUP is, you're going to be like way, way ahead of the game. Someone with that sort of knowledge will be dangerous. I think ultimately the goal here is that, like, my thesis here is that business domain experts, if we just infuse just a little bit of the mental models for how code works, you guys will be able to create some just absolutely explosive things, because you are literally just a few keystrokes away from automating and you're just a few keystrokes away from doing some pretty incredible things. And I aim to show you exactly how to do it. So for this first video, I'm going to try and do a two-part. In part one, we're going to build an AI, it's a classification system. So it's going to be a list of like expenses, like Uber ride to the airport, lunch with whatever. And it's going to classify those expenses into predefined categories, okay? So in part one, I'm barely going to use the add-in at all. We're barely going to touch it. I'm going to do it the naive way. So if you you don't have to have the add-in if you want to build an AI classification system. You can watch this video and you'll be able to do that in Excel VBA. The last thing that I want to touch on is like why Excel VBA. So like Excel VBA is it's hated in if you just go on Google and read about it. It's like programmers and software professionals hate Excel. And I think some of that is justified. Maybe a lot of it is justified. But I also think it's wrong. There's a reason why, despite all of this hatred towards Excel, it just keeps on going. And it's not because Microsoft has a monopoly or it's because it's possible to do things. Excel gives you flexibility. You know, when you're producing, like I come from an appraisal background, real estate appraisal, and so there are a lot of steps in an appraisal, and no two appraisals are alike. And so you need the ability to, you need the ability to sort of fork in the road. It's like, okay, this project has something weird. We need to build a side table over here and do, an amortization for this tax lien or whatever it is. That's not in the normal flow of things. And I think that Python and any software that doesn't have that spreadsheet interface is just not amenable to doing that. Excel gives you all the flexibility. It's like you could build a core, sort of like a core workflow, and then have the flexibility to, you know what? We'll talk about that later. Let's start building. Okay. So I'm going to create a folder here called Classifier Part 1. All right, and I'm going to create an Excel file. Doesn't really matter what this one is called. Once you have the add-in installed, there's a little button up here. If you click that, you have, most of these are disabled right now because this workbook is not a host workbook. So the way this add-in works is that you've got one add-in and then you build the host workbooks and you write your code in the host workbooks inside the Excel file. And the add-in gives you functions and classes and such that you can use. And that's kind of where the secret sauce is. So I'm going to build this in a host workbook. But like I said before, you could follow all of these steps without using the add-in. In part 2, we're going to basically build in parallel, and instead of, no, I don't know how to say this. These videos are not easy. Let's just go. All right, so we'll give it a title, Classifier Select 1. All right, so this is creating the host workbook. What it just did is, well, you can read the summary of the logs here. It's telling you what it did. But what it did was it added some of these files here. So these 1, 2, 3, 4 files, and these would not normally be in a new workbook. So we don't really need to talk or focus on these things at all right now because we're not using the add-in so much. But that's what just happened. All right, so let's save, and let's see. So we've got some expenses. Let's see, let's take over this worksheet here. Expenses, I hate grid lines, so turn that off. We don't need this GGG workbook anymore. We got a nice stash folder here. So this is going to be in the part 2 prompt that's model based. This is the part 1 prompt, and this is what I need right now is this expense data. All right, cool. So it's just like I asked ChatGPT to make this data for me. It's just a list of a bunch of expenses, description, amount. Let's just take all this data here and let's come over here and we will paste it. Double click, it'll like raise to what you need. So we don't need ID, we don't need date, we don't need vendor, we don't need amount. All of those things we will use in part 2. In this one, we don't. We just need the description and the classification. Let's see. So let's make this look a little bit more like a data header. So this is like Stripe transaction fee, merchant fees, best. These are the classifications, what I'm going to call the cost categories. Okay? And so let's move this over here, get rid of this. What we want to do is be able to basically have the system fill in this column here for us. So it's going to take the data from here, from the active selection, and it's going to create a prompt, and then it's going to send the prompt to ChatGPT, and then it's going to take ChatGPT's response, and it's going to put the responses here. So first thing we need to do is we need to make this list unique, because it's not unique right now at all. So I just typed in equals unique, and then it gives it. These are like new array formulas. I don't know about those, so I'm just going to paste as values and just get rid of these strange formulas. Okay? Whoa, actually, let's do this. Okay. Let's give this, let's see. I have some notes here. All right, so we're going to name this range choices cost category, like that. If you don't know what a name range is, it's just a way to refer to a group of cells, one cell, or a group of cells. The add-in has something that lets you see all the ranges on the current page, which is kind of cool. All right, so this is going to be LLM answer. LLM, by that I mean the large language model, or ChatGPT. I like blue for input cells, so that's what we'll use. All right, so if you go to data validation, set it to list, equal sign, and the name of the range, that's going to make it so now this is restricted to these particular categories. So I'm going to take that top cell and just paste it down so everything is restricted. Good. I save pretty frequently. When you're working with the VBA parts, you definitely should be saving a lot. I usually do this where I hit F12. It opens the save as, and I'll just increment a counter like that. That way, if I need to go back a version, or it's pretty rare that I need to go back, but when I was first starting out, I had to go back a lot. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need is some prompts. So I'm going to make another worksheet here, call it prompts. Get rid of those damn grid lines. Okay, so let's see. We're going to need 3. I'm going to model this out for you and sort of show you how it goes. So we've got 3 base cells here. This one is going to be called prompt base. This one is going to be called prompt final. And this one is going to be called prompt response. All right, and all 3 of these are going to be named ranges. Okay? All right, so now let's get the prompts. They're over here in the tutorial stash. So I made these in advance. This is the base. This is the final text that's going to go out. And this is the response back from the chatbot. So it's pretty simple. It's saying, you are a financial assistant and you need to classify expenses into categories. And then it gives the output format of a JSON, which we're going to parse a JSON and talk about a JSON in just a minute. In fact, we're gonna go to like a Forex news website that has a bunch of historical news releases, and I'll show you how to go in Chrome Tools and pull out I'm scared to say the word scrape because I'm afraid like a YouTube thing is gonna take it down, but we're gonna do enhanced collection. All right, so here's the base prompt. Let's put that in here. Cool. Let's get out of this thing. Where's my final prompt? Is right here. Okay, and the example response is right here. Whoopsies. Okay, let's make these guys go up. Let's make this guy middle, bold, big. So the flow, do you think that's big enough? Let's go bigger. This is the flow. And then from here, it's going to go to the worksheet. So we're coming in from the worksheet, from the user's current selection, and then it's going to get this base prompt. And there's these tags in here. Notice these tags. These tags are basically going to go in, and they're going to go here. Jeez, can we get any bigger? Oh, good. And here. Okay, so this guy goes to here, and this guy goes to here. And then this is what we get back. All right, so let's code some stuff. This is what I love about Excel, is that you have this sort of hybrid environment where you can work at the worksheet, and then you can write code that, that interacts with that, whatever you wrote. Insert. Okay, so let's just explain really quickly here. There's a few things that you have. These are the worksheets. A lot of these sheets you can't see. You're only seeing 3. That's because they're hidden. But these are they're related to the added. I'm going to explain them later. These are standard modules. This is like your main core stuff. This is where we're going to be basically living in the standard modules here. And these are the class modules. So these are 3 system models. Sheet info. You actually just saw sheet info. That's this here. It just shadows the regular worksheets. Yeah. Anyways, let's just keep going. So I'm going to insert one of the standard modules, the middle one. Okay? I'm going to click on it and click F4. You'll probably see this thing is usually like right here. But just click F4 if not. And I'm going to make the module called app common. Okay? At the top, pretty much every module I make, I'm going to do this option private module and private message as string. I suppose I should explain a little bit about like how to set up your editor. There isn't much to it, but I think maybe I'll just do that in a different video. No, maybe I'll touch it here. So options, tools, options. Click this require variable syntax. That makes sure that option explicit is on every module. And that's probably actually the only one that's the only one you really need to do. The view menu here, this is called the immediate window. It comes back with Control G. We're going to use it like 1,000 times, so you'll absorb that through osmosis. And this is just the Project Explorer, so it's all your files. This represents this one Excel file. Is this? Okay. This is just other stuff that I opened. Okay, so app common. We created these 3 ranges over here. And we're going to need to reference them in code. So we're going to make constants, range, name, prompt, base. Range name, prompt, final, and these all should be public actually. Range name, prompt, response, we made one more range right here, this guy, and that corresponds to this set of cells here. So range name, choices, costs, category. Okay. And replace tag categories and also replace tag expenses. And this is just going to be expense line items. And this one is going to be allowed classification categories. So these guys right here, those correspond with these guys right here. All right, good time to save. What's coming next? All right, so we need to make the prompt. We need to make the prompt, we need to send the prompt, and then we need to get back a JSON and parse it. So let's just make the prompt. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try to use this text. We're gonna use the current selection to basically fill in that prompt and make this prompt work. Oh, I have an idea. Let me just take the prompt as it is right here and just send it to ChatGPT so you can see. Now, we're not going to be doing it through the browser, but this is exactly what the response that we're going to get back is. And then we just have to parse the response and drop the answers into the adjacent cell to the right. All right, so insert module, view, properties window. See, there's the F4, in case it wasn't up. I'm trying to reinforce that for you. Let's see, AI classify select. In the part 2, we're going to do the AI classify model. That one's going to be a lot cooler. All right, and then let's just make a function called generate prompt expense classify select. Okay, and it's going to give back a string. So in the spirit of teaching things as we go, you basically have functions and subroutines are the two main ones to know about to start with. So that's that keyword right here. So you can have a public function or a private function. And it can take things, it can take parameters. So we could say, I have an idea. Add to numbers. A as integer, B as integer. And it's going to give back an integer. Okay, so this guy's just going to say, add two numbers equals A plus B. That's how you return from a function. You set the name to be equal to the value you want to return. I think maybe it would be easier for you to see it if I broke it out, some intermediate variables like this. Okay. Right here, we'll say, I don't really care what I'm going to call this subroutine because all I'm going to do, the answer equals add two numbers, and we can put like 5 and 11, and then say message box the answer, and it gives it 16. So we can walk through it. I hit F5, by the way. That's how you do it. You can hit this play button, or you can hit F5. Whatever function that your mouse cursor is in is the one that's going to run. So if I hit F8, it's kind of cool. It's going to take me through it line by line. It's like following exactly what the computer's doing. And you can look at any point in time and see, like here, in this thing, this locals window, it tells you what you're inside of, the name of the function, and the values of the variables. And I don't know. We'll look at that more later, maybe. Play. Finish it off. Okay. So instead of adding two numbers, we're gonna make a function that gives us the that generates the prompt. So the first thing that we're gonna need to do is let me pause this for just a second, and then I'm gonna start it literally in 2 seconds again. Okay, it was maybe 4 seconds. All right, this function is not gonna take any parameters right now. It'll take some parameters later, but that'll just be annoying for us to deal with at the moment. So we need to get dim choice text. We need the expense text, and we need the base text. Okay, so dude, let me just get out of this other. This thing is driving me nuts. No. This whole thing is the base text, and then these are the this is the choice text. We need to generate this part, and we need to generate the expenses. So in fact, we're not really going to need the base text till the end, so we'll put that down here. Final text. No, I changed my mind. I'm going to put it up here. So final text is going to be base text, replace, let's see. Replace tag categories, choice text. And then we got to get the other one. Expenses, expense text. By the way, so when you're typing, this is something really powerful and useful, which I didn't learn about for way too long. When you just start typing something, like if I say final text equals, and I just type in like RANG like that, if you hit Control spacebar, it will start suggesting things for you. And it just means you don't have to rely on your memory. So Control spacebar. All right. Cool. Maybe we will leave this up. No, we're going to leave it down here. Okay, so this isn't really going to do anything yet. We'll just call this like test drive. Debug.print. It's going to literally do nothing, I think. Yeah, because we're not doing anything yet. But it's running. Okay. So the choice text looks like this. We've got an opening bracket followed by all of the choices inside of double quotes with a comma in between them, and then an ending bracket. There are no extra spaces in here, like there's nothing in there like that. It wouldn't matter if there were, but there's no reason that we need to have those. And so we just won't. Okay. What have I done? I think I'm still inside the formula. Get out of there. Get out of here too. All right, so base text equals range name, control, spacebar, prompt, base, message box, base text. There it is, okay? So that's our base text. Now here is for the choice text. Okay. Generate choice text. Sorry, guys. You know, I get like a little bit, I have camera phobia. Hopefully it gets better as I make more videos. It sort of has to, so I think it will. All right, so to do this, we're going to need to loop over these choices. I'm going to do it two ways. First, I'm going to do it the sort of the naive way, and then we'll just drop that and we'll use a JSON library. And everything that I'm using in this video, you can get. You don't need the add-in for this. But the add-in will make it significantly easier for you. All right, so let's learn a little bit about ranges. So kind of want to get over here, get that guy out of the way. Let's get this guy out of the way. All right, dim cell as range. By the way, this dim word, that just when you're creating a new variable, it's short for dimension. You've got to declare the variable like in advance. All right, and then we're going to need the full choice range. Choice range as range, set choice range equal to range name. No. Okay, so let's just play with this range thing for a second. And let's see. Okay, so I'm selecting it. You see? I unselect it and I'll run it again. It's this line right here. That's when it's doing it. All right, so you can do things with ranges, lots of things. And the cool thing about Excel, again, is that you have this drop-down menu is called the IntelliSense. So I typed in the variable name and then I did the dot operator, fancy word for a period. And there's all of these different things that you can do, like make it red, make it not red. So let's loop through the cells for each cell in choice range. Next cell. Okay. Debug.print cell.value. Let's look in the immediate window up here. Whoops. When that happens, just hit stop or escape, whatever. All right, so there they are. And we don't want this select to be staying in here either. Cool. And each time it's going, I'm just hitting F5. Sorry for not saying that. All right, so let's see. So we got the values here. We just need to sort of string them together like Christmas lights for this one. So dim s as string. I'm not going to use choice text right now. I'm just going to use S. So S is going to start off. We know it has that opening bracket. And then for each cell, we're going to do S equals S and cell.value and a comma. And then at the end, we need to do S equals S and end that thing off. And then let's message box S. Not bad. Okay? So we don't have the quotes around the categories. Let's see. So the way to handle quotes, it's like I'm sort of trying to draw a balance between explaining things that have all been extracted away by the add-in versus, you know, the fact that we're about to ditch this for JSON. But I think what I'll show you is this. because this is the more important skill to have. It's really annoying to do double quotes, to do quotes within quotes, because it just gets a little bit confused. So you basically have to, well, whatever. Sorry, I refuse to re-record this video. Don't worry, you're not actually going to have to do this. Message box, yes. All right, I'll show you how to handle this. Fix this, please. That's the way to use ChatGPT. You don't want to like delegate too much of your thinking to it. That's not ChatGPT's fault. It's just a damn Boy Scout. There you go. All right, cool. So in reality, the way that we're gonna use we're gonna do it with a JSON, and in practice I almost never have to do this this kind of stuff, but it's just getting confused because it doesn't know where, like if you want to say S equals the lazy brown fox went somewhere in the street, and you want to put this word somewhere in double quotes, it has no way of knowing that the double quote that you're putting here is not the end of this one. Okay. So you could put it in like that, and it would be okay. So that's sort of the issue, and the way you have to get around that is by like doubling up or whatever that is, like quadrupling up on them. It seems. Okay, I think that probably this is entirely too much time to be spending on this. So let's wrap it up. The add-in has a really easy thing called wrap double quotes, and you just put in cell.value, and then that'll work. And ChatGPT was right about getting rid of that trailing. I don't like the way that it did it though. This is not, this code could work, but my view is that you should be able to understand the code, like if you were running down the street, you should be able to understand it. So let's see if we can make it. This is what I thought was better. So we take S and we replace it with itself, and we're just going to replace this pattern right here with just one of these things. Okay. I really kind of regret showing you the naive way, but there you go. All right, so let's see. What let's do now is we're going to use a JSON converter, and we're basically just going to forget. We're going to forget about this whole little thing that we went down. So, in fact, so much so that we're going to forget about it is I'm just going to delete it. All right? And I'm going to say this time dim collect as a collection. A collection is just something that you can, it just holds a list of items. It's a one-dimensional list. So you can say like collect.add apples, message box, collect.count, message box, collect.item 1. Okay, it has one item in it, and that item is apples. You can fill it up with as many items as you want. Collections and dictionaries are the two data structures that we're gonna use 99% of the time. All right, so dim cell as range. For each cell in choice range, collect.add cell.value, next cell. And then right here, let's just say, let's use a real choice text equals JSON converter dot convert to JSON. So this thing is going to take either a collection or a dictionary, and it will turn it into a nice, beautifully printed string. So we pass it the collection, and it gives back a string. I don't have to put JSON converter there; it'll work just the same. But I do always put it there, just because that's what I do. Okay. Same exact string, and now check this out. Let's give it a little pretty indent there, and it just like makes it super nice. Okay. That's that second argument. I think it's called indent. It's called white space, whatever it is. So great. All right, so it seems like a little bit busy in here right now, so let's pull out. I'm going to pull out a function on the side. I'm going to call it range to horizontal string, and it's going to take cell range as range, and it's going to give back a nice string. Let's see. Dim cell as range for each cell in cell range. Next cell. Dim collect as new collection. Collect.add cell.value. And then we will do our return right here. JSON. Alexa, stop. I don't know what she's talking about. Convert to JSON. And it's the collection. So now we can get rid of all of this stuff and just say choice text, pass it the range. Shit, keep kind of organized. Always worth it to stay tidy. I just hit save for the record. All right, let's make sure it's still working. It is. I guess I can leave this in there for now, the pretty indent, but I think in the final version we don't want it. In fact, let's just get rid of it now. I'll tell you why we don't want it. We're sending this to ChatGPT, and it's going to cost a little bit. Each token costs something. Now, granted, I made a whole bunch of stuff like messing around for this video, and last I checked, I was not over 1 penny yet. So this particular prompt that we're sending, you would need to send this like 120,000 times to generate $5 worth of cost. So it is cheap. So when I say like I'm trying to pinch pennies here, I'm really pinching like fractions of 1 penny. However, I think that being in a habit of understanding, how to optimize things is good, but also to not lose sight of the big picture, which is that this is not going to cost us anything. Okay, let's make the expense text. So this one, I'm going to jump the gun a little bit to try and make up for some time that I spent meandering around with that naive string approach. And this one's just going to be called range to vertical string. The only difference with this one is that it's going to use a dictionary. And a dictionary is almost the same as a collection, but it has the keys. It has a key and a value, just like a dictionary in a book. So you see how this is like a flat list of just items. Item, item, item. This one has got a key and an item. A key and an item. So That's the difference. You'll see anything that you're going to see a lot of times. I'll just spare you. I'll spare the commentary. Okay. All right. Dict.add. Oh yeah, I need index. So the dictionary, you see, it's going to loop through the cells and it's going to add this index. We're going to start the index. It's long type. Long means, how about this? Use long instead of integer always. I used integer somewhere earlier in this video, and that was I probably shouldn't have even told you that integer exists. Integer can only go up to a certain size. I think it's 32,000 in Excel, whereas the long type can go up to, well over 1 million. Integer is sort of a holdover from a day when computers had much less memory in the early 90s. Sort of like every little bit of memory counted. But these days there's no good reason to ever use an integer. So just when you need a non-decimal number, just use long and forget about it. All right, so it'll start off as 0 automatically. That's just what numbers, if you don't assign a value, it'll be 0. So right here, we're going to say index equals index plus 1. So we're going to come in with the cell range. It's going to loop the cells. It's going to hit this thing right away. That's going to make index go to 1. Then it's going to add the key 1 with the expense description. Then it's going to go to the next cell. And it's going to add 2. All right, so let's say expense text here. Selection is whatever you currently have selected. So I am not going to be leaving this here. We're going to get rid of that and we're going to put like a test stub variable in there, but let's just make sure it works. So message box, expense text, range to vertical string. We're passing in the selection. This is my current selection right here. And there you go. It's not nice though, because we need to put this little cool thing here. Pretty in-depth. That is looking much better. Okay. We're looking good so far. I'm trying as much as I can to do this sort of in a way that I naturally would do it. So one of the things that I'm always trying to do is like the game of Tetris, where we're trying to sort of organize and compress things, like what we just did. We started off with like this sort of naive string loop. We found a sort of a better way using the JSON. Then we created a function so that we can do that anytime we want, anywhere, and we called those functions. Now, because really these functions are general functions, they don't actually belong. They have nothing to do on this module with AI classify select. All right, so we're going to create one. We're going to put it on app common. That's what we're going to do. We're going to move both of these guys to app common. And I also see a little mistake that I made, which is app common never should have been called app common. Should have been called app constants. App common wasn't supposed to come until like just a second ago. So let's take the constants out of here. Move them here. Cool. And then we'll just call these, string utilities. There's more stuff. Like in part 2, we're really going to fill this up with some cool stuff. All right, let's go back and check out the prompt. So before I do anything else, because when I was testing this out, I was kept forgetting where my cursor was, and it was just wreaking mayhem because it kept trying to use my selection, but I would be somewhere where I really didn't want to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a test range. I'm going to select 10 cells. You can see actually if you watch up here, and well down here you can see the 10, but this is kind of useful that little 10 up in the corner there. I'm telling you that because I didn't know about that for a little while. All right, test expenses. And this is going to be a very short-lived range. We're not going to need it very long. So what I'm going to do is we'll put it here. It's basically like a constant. Get test, get range, test expense. Get range, expense, test. Does that sound good? Test expense. Okay, and then I'm just going to say set get range test expense equal to range. I'm not even going to give this test expense range. I'm not going to give it a constant. It doesn't, it's really, it's temporary and we want to get rid of it really soon. To do, delete this temporary range. Okay. Let's go back over here and here. Say dim selection. All right, I need a Red Bull. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so what we need to do is make this a parameter. And then we need to change this to be, let's see. This function, we only need it here on this module, whereas this one, we're going to need it from other places. So this is going to be called classify expense selection. All right. Notice it's a subroutine. That means it does not return any value. This is a function, and it returns a string. That's the only difference between a subroutine and a function. One of them can return a value, the other one doesn't. And now, notice if I were to try to run the function, it would fail, but I can hit this compile and it's going to say argument not optional. It's because I put this range here as an argument and I have not provided it here. So we'll provide it. Let's see if it all works. It does not. This part is fine. The expense line items are missing. Ah, look what I did. I forgot to put this in here. Okay, see, I told you that selection is just bad news. I knew if I did that, something bad would happen, and it did. Cool. Looking pretty good. So, the next thing that we should do is, I wanted to explain the JSON. So what we just did over here with these functions that basically take these ranges and give you back these pretty strings. I wanted to explain JSON and do something that was like sort of cool, if you will. So we're gonna just segue here for a second, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to a website, Forex Factory, and there's a calendar tab up here. So this is all these news events that impact the financial markets. So like here's, CPI. It has the most recent, the actual, the forecast, and the previous. And there's this little graph thing here, okay? And so it has this data in it. So if you right click, I think you could, this will work in Chrome or wherever you are. In fact, let's see if we can, let's do it in here. I just like that Chrome one was looking kind of weird. All right, so right click and just click inspect. There's like 1,000 ways to get Control-Shift-I, click inspect. There's 1,000 ways to make this little dev tools guy up here. And you go to the network tab and put it on fetch. Make sure there's no filters here. So all these should just be turned off for simplicity. Okay, and then let's see. That's probably not the one we want. So what this is showing me is like, yeah, maybe it is. It's not. No, it's not. So what we do is we're basically gonna watch it. Why it's being all weird like this, I don't know. We're gonna click it and then we're gonna watch it, and it's basically just gonna be observing what happens. So I need to find a good one. Like CPI is a good one. Cool. So it made, this is the request that it made. And if I click on it, I can see this is the raw data. So this data is coming in, you guessed it, in a JSON format. It's a JSON string. And there's some JavaScript that is reading that data and is making this little chart appear. We're interested in getting this string without browsing to the website. So I'm going to right click on this thing here and I'm going to select copy URL. Okay? And then let's go back to our favorite programming language, module, insert module. Sorry if I'm going fast there. Insert module, F4 to rename it, and we'll call it JSON example. Option private module, because I always do that. Private messages string. I always do this too. You don't know why I do this yet, but you'll see. Make a subroutine because we're just demonstrating. We're not going to return anything, and I'm just going to call it 4x JSON example. Okay. You might have noticed on the constants page, instead of using the dim, URL as string, you can do this. Okay. That'll work. But if it's only ever going to be one thing and it doesn't need to change, you don't actually need to create a variable. You can create a constant. So const URL as string. Whenever you can use a constant, you should. All right, so that's our URL. And why don't I take this URL real quick? And let's just put it in the browser. I'll show you what it looks like. Don't forget to click the pretty print. All right, so this is the URL and this is the raw data. So when we call this from VBA, we're basically just going to get back like a big string that looks just like this. And then we're going to do the opposite of what we just did. So we just took a collection and a dictionary and we serialized it into a string. In what we're about to do now is we're going to take a string from here and we are going to deserialize it into an object. Looks like whenever you see these curly cues, this means dictionary. I don't know what you call that, like a curly brace. And these hard angle braces, those correspond to collections. So they sort of just go together like Lego blocks. So let's go ahead, let's do it. Oh, one other thing. Look at these. These are called like the query arguments here. So this is probably like a particular event, like CPI. The limit is how many we're getting, and site ID, I wouldn't change that. So let's just try changing a limit to like 3. Make it pretty. Now we just get 3 events. So we know that we can, by changing that number, we can get a different amount. I don't really care to get a lot of them, so we're going to do 5. And by the way, if anybody replicates this example, you need to be really mindful when you're calling someone else's server. So I don't think that they care, considering you can just go to their page and just reload your page 10 times and you're going to have the same effect. But especially in loops, you don't want to just be like repeatedly pinging someone else's server, because it strains the resources. All right, so to do this, we need to enable a library, which is kind of cool. It just comes with VBA. When I created this and made this a host workbook, it enabled a few references automatically for us. One of them is the add-in itself. Another one is this Microsoft scripting runtime. That's where the dictionary comes from. And this Visual Basic for applications, that's what lets the add-in write the code for you. So it's basically, the add-in provides like kindling code, and then you build on top of that. And all of the nitty-gritty stuff is abstracted away. You know, if you already know VBA, you could skip to part 2 of this video, and it'll be, we'll go like hardcore, like into the object model. But let's just keep going with where we're going right now. So, did I turn on the reference? I'm not sure I did. Where'd you go? This one, Microsoft Win HTTP services. Just press OK. Now it's there. So dim request as new Win HTTP request. So let's see. We need to say request.open. It's a get. The other kind is post. There's other kinds too, but get and post are the ones that you really need the most. The URL, so it's telling you what it wants. It wants the method, then it wants the URL, and then it wants async. And just pass false for that. Okay? And then we're gonna say request.send. At the moment it hits this line, is like, this is the equivalent of typing in the URL to your browser, and this is the equivalent of hitting enter and submitting the request and loading the page in your browser. All right, and then we're going to get some text. This is going to be the JSON. I'll just call it response text. All right, and response text is going to equal request.response text. So once we send the request, this response text, if I did it here, it would be blank or maybe even error on me. I don't know. But after you send it, then the response text will just be there. So let's just make sure that this part worked. There it is. Okay. So the next thing is, let's make it, let's deserialize it. So it's in a JSON format right now. And it looks like the outermost part of the JSON, wherever it is, here, is a dictionary. So I'm going to say dim response dict as dictionary. I'll tell you more about this new keyword. You might have noticed I did dim request as new. I could have also done it. This is just a, when you put the new operator in this line, it's a syntax shortcut. And there's actually some risks with doing that. I will tell you about those risks too at some point. But it would be fine to use it here. And the other thing is that I'm using this set. I'm not saying response dict equals JSON converter parse JSON. So last time we converted to JSON. This time we're parsing the JSON. When you're assigning to an object, so a dictionary, a collection, you need to use the set operator. Maybe I'd say I'd show you what happens if you forget it, but I'm pretty sure that I will naturally do that at some point. All right, and then let's just say pretty response text. I'm going to now really weirdly, we just deserialized it into an object, and now I'm going to reserialize that object again solely for the purpose of making it pretty, using that little this little indent parameter here. So there. I just think it helps to see it. So this is sort of the map of what it looks like. All of this data is inside of the response dict. We just made a little temporary pretty for demonstration purposes. Okay, and now we are going to let's dig inside of it. So what we want to do, let's just like loop through these events. In a second, when we send our message to ChatGPT, it's abstracted for you. So the add-in abstracts it. So I sort of felt like I was taking something away from you by since the add-in is abstracting the JSON part. So the reason I put this example in here is for people who are not going to use the add-in, I want to make sure that you know how to parse a JSON. So because when you send your prompt to the OpenAI endpoint where ChatGPT engine lives, it's going to give you back. You have to both send a JSON out and you're going to get back a JSON. So if you can do this, then you can easily handle that. And obviously, ChatGPT can help you too. All right, so we're going to need the events is going to be a collection. So right here, see how it opens up with this little thing? That means it's a collection. And then inside of it is a bunch of these dictionaries, just a bunch of little dictionaries. All right. So set events collection equal to response dict. The first key is data, and then inside of data, it's this key events. All right. And then let's loop through it. So I'm just going to create a single variable D as dictionary for each D in events collection, debug.print D, let's get the ID, and how about, I don't know, date. When I press this debug compile, it's not actually doing anything that, you don't have to do that. I just do it to make sure there are no mistakes. It will find a mistake for you. I'd rather find the mistake now before I hit run than after. All right, hit F5. Boom. Here's our events right here. Maybe we'll do it one more time without this guy here. And then we'll put a little event. Wow. Those are kind of fast that time. All right, so that is how you parse a JSON. One more thing, if you're not using the add-in, you need to get the JSON. So I just provide the JSON converter is inside of the add-in, but it is not my work. It is someone else named Tim Hall who made it. And here is the link to his VBA tools, the package. So if you want to do this, you just go to this file here and copy paste everything from here all the way to the bottom. And then you would come here to your VBA project and you would insert a module and you would call it JSON converter, except without the FFF, because I already have a module called JSON converter in the add-in, and then you would paste it in, and then it would just work. So then instead of using my reference that I put in there, you would say JSON converter FFF, and you'd get the exact same results. Okay. And once again, this is the work of Tim. It's Tim Hall's project. Where is he? There he is. This guy. He's the one that made it. Looks like he's still like actively doing stuff too. Thank you, Tim. I will put a link. I'll try to put a link in the description of the YouTube video once I figure out how to upload one of those. All right. I'm going to stop for a second because I'm meandering. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm back. There are two things that we need to do. One of them is we need to actually message ChatGPT. And the other thing we need to do is build something that can take ChatGPT's answers and paste it into the adjacent cells. So I think let's we'll work backwards. So let's create a function called, let's just work up here at the top. Paste answers adjacent right. Okay? So this is what's going to get called after ChatGPT responds with the answers. So this function is going to need to know two things, which we will make as parameters. One of them is the selection range, maybe selection column, to make it clear that it's supposed to be a column. And the other thing is a response dict as dictionary. This is just going to be that little, it's going to be this guy right here. It's going to, we'll deserialize it into a dictionary, and then it'll get passed to this function. All right, and so what this function is going to need to do, let's see, we're going to need the AI category. This is what ChatGPT, decided, office, expense, or whatever. We're going to need the expense cell as range. That is going to be like this specific cell. And then we're going to need the paste cell as range. And that's where it's going to paste the answer in. And we're going to need index key as variant. Variant is, it can be anything. It's like a stem cell. It can become an integer. It can even become an object like a range. Integer, long, string, Boolean. That's true, false. The reason I'm using it here is because when you're doing a for each loop, you have to use a variant to go through it. So for each index key in response dict, next index key, we are going to get the AI category is going to be the response dict key. Just to show you, I think if I put this as string and I do this compile thing, for each control variable must be variant or object. So there you have it. Variant, but it's a string. And let's see. So the expense set expense cell equal to selection column index key. So if I just momentarily take the selection range, set selection range equal to selection, message box selection range dot cells dot count. All right, that's the selection range right here. There's 12 cells. If we say target cell as range, target cell equals selection range, and then we put in a number like, let's say 2. All right, this is key. This is the index key. This is what's happening right here. In fact, let's just give it the same name. Okay, and say expense cell dot interior dot color equals VB yellow. So we expect it to get the Starbucks one because that's the second cell. There it is. Okay, just to sort of demonstrate what's happening there. And then, but we don't want to paste in that cell. We want to paste right next to it. So we're going to say, do it up here actually. Paste cell as range set paste cell equal to expense cell dot offset. We don't want to change the row, so 0 offset on the row, but we want to go 1 column to the right. Paste cell dot interior dot color equals VB red. Oh shit! See, I told you this is why the selection thing is so evil. It's because I moved my cursor. Let's do it again. Let's start. Let's use the exact cell. So the first cell. Let's go down here on Hootsuite. And what we expect to see is this cell will turn red. Jesus Christ. Kill me. There. Okay? Just to see really quickly, the offsets this is like a bread and butter thing. If we were to change this paste cell to just be -1, say VB cyan, it's gonna go left. It's gonna go to the left one. If we make this like 5, it will go down 5 rows. -5, go up 5 rows. So this, you just start with like one reference cell and then you can just kind of bounce around. It's kind of hard to undo undo stuff that you do with VBA, but let's see if we can make it not like horrible anymore. Zero offset, 1 column to the right. All right, and then we're going to set the value. All right, so let's test drive this thing. Let's do the office supplies. We'll do a few things at once here. One is we'll demonstrate that when you're writing values with VBA, like I can't just type in whatever I want here at this level. It has to be one of these choices. But if I do it in VBA, it's not going to care. It'll let us do it. So I just want you to see that. You know what we really should do is, no, let's not do that. So I'm just going to do these 3. And I'm going to pass it selection once again, and this D. Let's call it response dict. I'm trying my best to make it clear. Hopefully that's working. All right. So what we expect to see is this is simulating what ChatGPT, like this will be a response will come from ChatGPT, but we're just pretending right now to see if this works. It does. Great. Okay, so now we have that done. We're really closing in here. So this guy will be right here. And then here, we know that we're going to need to call it, and we know we're going to need that selection column. And we know we're going to need some kind of response dict. So we're going to get that in just a second. Sometimes, like, this is a weird thing about VBA. If I did this, it would be fine. I like to use this It's called the call operator. When I'm calling a function, I like to do call, but it doesn't like it like that. So if you're gonna wrap things in parentheses, you need to put the call there. I was on the Reddit or somewhere, and someone was like, I can always tell a newbie coder when I see them using the call operator. And for the life of me, I don't know why they said that. I love the call operator. And I would encourage you to use the call operator, regardless of what people on Reddit say. All right, so we just need one thing in the middle here. We need to call ChatGPT right here. So let's do it. We're going to call the add-in on this part. So if you were doing this yourself, you would go to ChatGPT and you would give it this and basically say, can you please fill in this gap for me and parse the JSON. But we don't have to do any of that. So we're going to say dim chat comp, that's short for chat completion, as chat completion UDT. Again, I'm just hitting control space and getting it. And we're going to say chat comp equals AI underscore control space message chatbot. WB hosts, that's the workbook that we're in right now. This workbook, and then the prompt, final prompt. Okay? And then there's going to be a response text as string. I mean, we could take this straight from this example. Dude, what's this guy still doing here? Let's get rid of him. No. Like almost just like that. Only instead of the request, it's going to be latest message. All right, and another cool thing we can do right here is we can say call, and I'm going to start typing in this name, chat completion, and then I'm just going to hit control space, and there's this one called display info, and we'll pass the chat comp into that. Again, that's the add-in is going to be, it's just going to give us some information about how many tokens it used, how much it costs. Okay. So when I run this thing, it's going to error. And the reason it's going to error is because we don't have an OpenAI key. So let's go ahead and let's do the error. Cool. We got a 401 response. I don't know. You've probably seen like 404 errors, page not found. 404 means the page wasn't found. 401 means not authorized. 200 is successful. So if you get a 200 response, that's always really good. Anything in the 2s, 201 is good. Anything in the 4s is bad. Anything in the 5s is like really bad. I'll talk a lot more about those some other time. All right, so it's just the add-in is going to give us some information. You didn't provide an API key, so I'm gonna fix that. So and then we hit an error trying to parse the JSON because the response text was blank. Let's go and let's make an API key. So we'll go here. I set up an organization for my LLC, Woe Systems. So it's pretty straightforward to make a key. So you'll have a page that looks like this. You'll click create new secret key. You can give the key a name like video demo key, and then just create it. It's going to give it to you one time. I don't think that you get to see this thing again. So it's we get it and then it's going to be gone. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and pop it in. So let's go. Let's just get out of here now. We don't need to be here anymore. Let's go full screen. So I'm going to use the add-in again, config, and we're going to change a setting. I'll explain this encryption thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it in the final add-in, but just hit enter when you see this. You could type in a different password if you want, but I just wouldn't. If you forget it, it's going to be annoying. So I'm going to paste the key that it gave me in there. I'm going to delete that key at the end of this video, so it's not going to matter. There's other keys, so there's basically this setting registry where you have log levels and other sort of settings. These settings just they just come automatically with every host workbook, but you can add your own settings. So you can create your own settings. You can just call one function and pass like a setting group, and it will open up, the settings form with you with whatever data validation that you put in here. Those choices will be available. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and you can watch here the open API key. It's just going to populate it. And notice that it's encrypted. So the reason is it's just, I don't know. I just feel like with things sitting around on T drives and stuff, it's better to not keep it in plain text. There's actually a thing that's built in here. You can encrypt and decrypt values. So I don't know about that. I wonder if I did something wrong. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to use a different key. I really hate to delay you here. Maybe I'll just try. Let me just try and make another one. Let's just try that one more time. One of the reasons that I'm not sure about using these keys, another video key, is that the encryption algorithm is not perfect. All right, so let's just put it in. I'm just going to put it in here directly this time. And then let's go back to this config form. All right, it encrypted it, unmask it. That time it seemed fine. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I pledged to look into it. Yeah, so that time it was completely fine. I think it's there are just certain combinations, and I can't quite figure it out. Certain combinations that it just doesn't like. I'll show you some of those at another time. Let's get out of some of this stuff. All right, we have a valid key now. We are still set to use the test range. Let's get this out of the way. So the test range is it's this run right here. So let's go ahead and do it. Get out of this. Get out of this. And let's go ahead and run it. But I want to run it so you can see it. F5, I did it. All right, we got our message. So here's the message that we got back for the 10 expenses. The last one is utilities phone. Okay, I guess we'll see. I'm going to hit OK. Boom. There it is. Okay. Let's see. The first thought that comes to my mind is that it sort of sucks dealing with a few thoughts. All right. One of them is we need a better entry point. So it really is not viable. There's no way you're going to be, popping back and forth to the VBA thing. And you want to be able to make software that your teammates can use. So what would be way cooler is if we could right click here and then just have a AI hacking menu here that had some prompts built into it. So let's do that. So it's like when I was making this video is when it occurred to me that it would be cool to do that, and I'll show you what my first step was here. I came to ChatGPT and I said, okay, I need you to show in a very simple way how to add a context menu item to the right-click menu. How do I do this? Note, I thought of this while intercepting the cell, blah, blah, blah. Do we add the options on the fly? Basically, I just asked him, and it just gave me the code to do it. It gives you the starter code. And you should start, when you ask it, you should start with like the simplest thing of like, how do I make a button appear that just message boxes the value in the current cell? Okay, just start. Don't tell it like, I need to have an AI thing. Like, do not do that. Just start with the simplest proof of concept of like, okay, I can override the right-click menu. I can add a button to the right-click menu. I can assign a subroutine to run when I click that button. And you just keep building like that. My analogy is like an astronaut in space. You know, they're like hooked into the space station and they're like floating out on a cord. And he needs to hang on to that cord because if he lets go, he's going to float off into deep space. So when you go step by step, you're sort of maintaining a nexus. You know, you're maintaining like connection. You don't want to get cut off where you're like trying to debug some really long, big script. You want to keep contact and take little incremental steps. All right, so let's do this. New module. Again, each module should be focused on, one particular thing. This one is going to be called App Context Menu. All right, and I'm just gonna, I don't know what you guys really want. I'm gonna put some stuff in here. In the interest of time, I'm going to paste some stuff. So 3 constants. We want to have one menu that when you right click, there's an option for AI hacking like this, and you click on it or you hover over it, and then there's 2 other options underneath it. And those are going to be called Classify, Expenses, and Message Box Current Time. Okay? In fact, yeah, why not? Let's. I'll work this out. So P, custom context, custom context menu add. All right. So dim C bar as command bar. Set C bar equal to application dot command bars cell. All this is just coming from that ChatGPT code I showed you. Dim pop-up as command bar pop-up. The pop-up is the main outer one that says AI hacking. And then we're going to need a sub button. Sub button 1 as command bar button. And sub button 2, also a command bar button. We're going to set the pop-up equal to C bar dot controls dot add MSO control pop-up temporary equals true. This temporary equals true I found is important because if you don't put it, then they stack up like rabbits and you see the AI hacking menu like 10 times. Let's give it a caption. Pop-up dot caption equals pop-up caption. That's this constant up here. Set sub button 1 equal. All right, so notice how it sort of like nests. So we first had the command bar, and then we said command bar dot controls dot add, and we added the pop-up. Now with the pop-up, we're doing the same thing inside the pop-up, saying pop-up dot controls dot add MSO control button. So it's like they just nest like those Russian dolls where you open one up and there's like another one inside. They're just nesting like that. All right. And then so sub button 1 dot do the caption equals button caption 1. And then let's do this one like this 2, 2, 2. Okay. I always ask ChatGPT at the end when I'm doing something like, give me something really cool. Like, what's something really cool that I can do? Like, make it extra cool. And it will, like, give me something. So in this particular event, it gave me this, like, the ability to make a smiley face. We'll take that off for now. All right. You don't have to put the temporary equals true on these sub buttons. So, like, when the pop-up dies, all these little Russian things inside of it will also go away. Looking good. Good time to save. All right. For the record, there's nothing down here at all. Let's run it. Boom. And now there it is. So now we have the potential to just be like, highlight anything and click classify expenses. Nothing's happening right now because we haven't put a callback. So let's start. Let's do the sub button 2 first. So I think I have here we go. The example callback. Again, it's just ChatGPT. I was like, give me something that message boxes the current time. I don't really care about it, at all. So sub button 2 dot on action. That means like when you click it, run this subroutine. The other thing that we're gonna need, we'll just do it later. Let's run it again. So now we are going to see it twice, despite the temporary thing, and I'll tell you why. So the first one still does nothing because we didn't put a callback on that one. But this one, it tells us the current time. So all we need to do is swap in the expense classify this. We're going to swap this baby in. So for the first button here, sub button 1 dot on action equals expense classify selection. Okay, so now if we add a third rabbit, we can get like another cut of these things, and we can do this. It's running. One thing I don't know is why did it not paste? Ah, I know why. It's because this damn selection thing. I think it is time to delete this stupid get range test expense. So it's not using the current selection, so it would have worked if I deleted this, and then it doesn't even matter what the hell I select because it's still programmed to use this test range right here. So just to prove my point, I clicked it again. There's the response. All right, let's get rid of this. I'm going to tell you another really cool trick that I did not learn about until way too long. Click on a function or whatever, hold Shift F2, and you fly there. I can't tell you for how long I was doing this. Function, type it in, current project, and search to find it. So Shift F2. Don't worry, I'll keep reminding you about that. All right, so let's get rid of this function. And that's going to, now we're going to have a compile error because we're still referencing it. But we're just going to follow the errors, and it's going to take us to all the places that we need to update and just type in selection. I guess just one spot. Okay, good time to save. Let's do it again. AI hacking. This time we're going to do like, these guys down here. Boom. Get it. Okay, so that is it for people that, you know, if you're not using, I'm going to do some add-in stuff. I'm going to finish this up with a little bit of add-in stuff, and then I'm going to go to a dinner. So let's make some more entry points. And if you're not interested in the add-in, you just can go away now. All right, so let's look at, and again, this is like, I'm showing you this stuff is not meant to be like a, you know, necessarily how you would build your actual application. I'm trying to show you the different like ways that you can approach things and the ways that you can think about them. So take it for what it's worth. What we're going to do is we're going to add a keyboard shortcut, and we are also going to make a terminal command that will that both of which are going to run the same way as that this entry point does right here. Yeah. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I realized that when I sent the non-add-in people away, we forgot to clean up like the 3. That's not right. So let's finish this up real quick, and then we'll make the other entry points. So we're gonna need a function. Let's see. P to me is my way of saying it's a reminder that it's a private subroutine, that it will not be visible outside this module. So remove context menu. Let's see what I called it over here. No, this is what I called it. I called it this. All right, and it's going to be really easy. We're going to say, let's do it without. We'll say application.commandbars .remove .controls. What's this? Cell .remove .controls .remove. Delete. I'm getting tired. It's the inverse of this line up here. So this is application.commandbars. That's this guy. And then this is how we added it. cbar.controls.add. Technically, like, we could have just like chained all of this stuff together, you know, like that. I don't like to chain things too much. I think it's better to break them out. And then over long enough period of time, you can start chaining things together if you have a piece of code that is run reliably for a long period of time. .delete, and what we want to get rid of is just the pop-up captions. That one, because remember, if we get rid of this pop-up, the 2 sub-buttons that are connected to that pop-up, they're gonna die with it. All right, so message box removed. Let's go back over here. Let's make sure there's still 3 of them. There is. Good. And okay, let's run it. I messed up. What did I mess up? Get the control, then delete it. All right. Removed. We're down to 2. Removed. Now we're down to 1. And removed again. Now we're back to nothing. All right, so watch though what happens if we do this again. We get runtime error 5. That's because there's nothing left to remove anymore. So what we can do here is just do this on error resume next. Now, you know, we could do it a bunch of times, and it's never going to have a runtime error that our user will see. If we wanted to be really fancy, we could say if error.number not equal to 5, then message box an unexpected error happened. The final code that I actually put in looks like this. So I have a variable called owner. I put a constant of the name of the function. It's just a habit. That way I can see where message boxes or where errors are being raised. So this was my way of basically saying if any error happens in this besides runtime error 5, then raise the error because it's not the one that I expected. In this particular situation, it doesn't really matter, but I wanted to show you the pattern of sort of like how to handle errors. And this on error go to 0, this just sets this error.number is like a global it's like a global variable. So like if you didn't do this, then like in the next function, if you were checking like way down the line error.number, that 5 could still be sticking in there and it would be a little bit confusing. So that's why I put that there. This is a pattern that I'll do a bunch of times if you keep watching this video. So yeah. All right, so let's put it all together. At the top, I have this function. This guy is actually private function right here. So the only thing outside this module that's exposed is a single method here called app context reload. And this one we'll want to call like in the in like a workbook open event. That way each time this workbook opens, it's first going to try to remove anything that's there, and then it's going to add it again. And remember now it doesn't matter if we I'm running a bunch of times. Put owner as string. So see this message box, how it says, or you can see there's only, that's interesting. It wasn't starting from 0. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know what that was. You see how the message box is like, it's not very good. It says Microsoft Excel. It doesn't have any like blue or yellow or red. So we could, if you add on these things, VB information, and then this is where I put that owner constant I told you about. So now it's going to say I can see the name of the function, and I get a nice friendly blue one. If you want to be, warn people, if I'm trying to warn about something, I'll do that VB exclamation, and you get this yellow mark. And if it's really serious, I go with this critical, and that makes it red. I'm telling you this because if you use the add-in, those colors are meaningful. All right, so let me do the other entry points. So the keyboard shortcut is going to be pretty easy. This was injected for you already. And it comes with a example shortcut. So Control-Shift-Y, you can see here, if I do Control-Shift-Y, yellow world, that's the callback is right there. So now let's just do another one. I'm just going to copy this pattern. Control-Shift-G, classify expense selection. All right, and to make that bind, recalculate the workbook. So now if I select some expenses, Control-Shift-G, there we go. All right, one cool thing is that you have this terminal. So if you hover over the buttons here, you'll see it says, it gives you the shortcut, like right there. If you type in help here, you can see like some of the commands. One of them is discover shortcuts. So if we do this command, it's going to type the commands that just come with the add-in. So like that one I just used, Control-Shift-T to open the terminal. There's a developer form, model registry, whatever. These two, the host, that's the example one that it came with. and that's our classify expense selection. So that is a keyboard shortcut, and commands, do we want to do it? Let's just do it. So this is going to be command classify selection. Here's the example one, once again, that just comes with it. So it's called test host. Clear it out. So if I do help, there's the test host one, and if I type that in, just message boxes it. So let's register this command now. So I'm going to copy this code, give it a new keyword, classify select. The callback is this one. You'll notice that I didn't directly put in this one right here, the main one that we've been using. This guy doesn't take any arguments, doesn't take any parameters. There's nothing that it takes. So the command, when a command is run, it always passes the full user command, because a lot of times the commands could have like other parts of it. So it uses the first word in the command to decide what callback to route to. But then it passes the full text that the user typed in to that function. We don't need the text here, but we do need this little intermediate callback. So this is just going to be we're just going to directly route to this function here. Shift F2. That's how you fly to a function. All right, let's say this is classifies the current selected column of expenses, outputs, categories to the right. Sorry, I'm not going to make that better right now. eText is just an example. All of these will appear in the help command. So there isn't really an example. But for a command like, delete DB records, there will be the example is more useful. Let's see. So calculate help. There's our new command right there. And let's just see here, the create command. So create DB records test cat. That's an example where, it's a little more, the example means more. Whereas here, it's just kind of silly. So let's try it out. Let's get some selection. And let's say classify select. What did I do? Oh, I had that extra word on there. Let's try that again. God forbid, make sure I have a good selection there. There it is. Normally in your commands, it's good to put something. This was the first time I did it. It gave me an error, but it's good to print some sort of output or something. You can double click to clear it out if you want to. Okay. That's it. Let me double check. Guys, we did it. We finished my first video is done. So in part 2, we're gonna take this thing and we're gonna actually build some real models. One model we'll build for prompt, and another model we'll build for business expenses. We are going to take that raw CSV file of the expenses and we're gonna import it. So we're gonna write an import script that's gonna import to the model. And then we're gonna be able to work with those expenses. So we'll add 2 fields to the expense model. So you have the main fields that you already know about, wherever they are inside here. Come on. These. So the ID, the date, the vendor, these are going to be, what's called remote fields, meaning we don't control them. But then we're going to add 2 local fields to that model. One of them is going to be the cost category, and that's going to be restricted to those choices. And the other one is going to be follow-up question. So for categories that are unclear or where there's, ChatGPT is like, it's just not, it's not confident that it can make a correct categorization. It will ask a follow-up question. It will provide that too. And then instead of writing the data into the worksheet, like we are now, it's going to write it into the actual model. So we'll have a model, and this is where this is just a model for worksheets. It comes just with the add-in. Yeah. How about that's it? We'll save that for part 2. There's a bunch of other cool stuff we're going to do in part 2 too. I am going to dinner. If you made it with me this long, thank you for watching this video, and you should definitely click the like button. You should definitely click the like button for me. All right, thank you. Have a good night.